President Trump hauled in $125 million for his re-election effort during the last 3 months. That total is the combined amount raised between his campaign and the Republican National Committee for the third quarter. They have more than $156 million cash on hand. Not all the campaign numbers have been released yet, but the president's amount is expected to eclipse every candidate on the other side of the aisle. So far, Senator Bernie Sanders is leading the pack there. He raised about 1/5 of the president's total. Liz Harrington is the national spokesperson for the Republican National Committee. She joins me now from our Washington bureau. Liz, thank you so much for being with us. I want to start with this fundraising haul. Can you break down for us what type of voter your campaign sees the most traction from? Where are you targeting your efforts when it comes to this?
Well, a lot of support, unprecedented from our base. People contribute again and again. But what really put us over the top for this Q3, we were on track to have a record-breaking fundraising quarter. But the impeachment push, the baseless impeachment push by the Democrats, really added to our total $15 million just in the last week to give us this record-breaking $125 million figure. And what's interesting about that number is that almost all of it comes from small dollar donations, and a lot of it are first-time donors. So these are people that we hadn't been targeting before. These are 50,000 people who have gotten off the sidelines and decided to support this president after they've seen what's happening in Washington with the Democrats yet again trying to undo the results of 2016 with another baseless impeachment call.
So do you see this as a positive when you look at these sorts of numbers that the impeachment inquiry is bringing in for the campaign?
Well, it's certainly good for our party. It's certainly good for our fundraising, but it's terrible for the country. And I think a lot of Americans are scratching their heads and wondering, when are House Democrats going to get back to work for the American people? When are they going to look at issues like the USMCA and bring that to the floor? We've been waiting for months and months for Nancy Pelosi to do so, and she's refused to bring it to the floor. When are they going to work on issues like the border and health care and lowering prescription drug prices? Democrats in that won some of these Trump districts in 2018, we're going to be holding them accountable. We're already on the ground in 19 states telling voters, hey, listen, your representative ran on a campaign to reach across the aisle, said they were going to be moderate, and they have not. They've completely capitulated to the radical base of the Democrat Party and calling for impeachment.
But Liz, a lot of people are saying, okay, yeah, so he's claiming that the Democrats aren't able to get anything done legislatively. But how much has the White House been doing at the same time?
They've been working every single day. If you look at the border, they've passed a new regulation to close the Flores loophole. Look at the wall with the emergency funding going through. Miles and miles of the wall are going up. Look at when you look at health care, the president was just speaking about it today. There's so many efforts in the administrative front through the Department of Health and Human Services of opening up competition in our health care system by opening insurance plans across state lines. Issues like this that we could really do a lot more if the Democrats would stop their baseless impeachment push. I mean, these are Democrats who've been calling for impeachment since the day Donald Trump was inaugurated.
All right. Well, so sticking with impeachment, since it's the news of the day, I do want to play some sound from the president's press conference yesterday. He attacked the whistleblower at the center of this controversy. Let's listen.
He wrote a vicious conversation. In other words, he either got it totally wrong, made it up, or the person giving the information to the whistleblower was dishonest. And this country has to find out who that person was, because that person's a spy, in my opinion.
So the president has characterized this impeachment inquiry as a witch hunt by Democrats. So why then is he going after the whistleblower and the person who he believes helps the whistleblower? I mean, if there's nothing there, then why go after those two people? Do you think that's the right strategy here?
Well, because clearly this is a partisan hit job, and they're trying to undermine his presidency. We just learned from CNN that this so-called whistleblower is a registered Democrat. And what did he do? We learned yesterday in the New York Times that this registered Democrat went to the Democrat House Intelligence Committee, led by Adam Schiff, went to his committee first, and they gave this whistleblower, so-called whistleblower, a Democrat attorney who had donated to Joe Biden, who wrote the complaint. So here we have a very partisan process here, and we should find out more, because what were their motivations? And we learned that this complaint was riddled with falsehoods. This is a person who's a registered Democrat who didn't have firsthand knowledge of the phone call. We've seen the phone call. We can read it for ourselves. There's nothing wrong with this conversation.
And you think there's nothing wrong with the phone call when you read the partial transcript of the phone call?
There's absolutely nothing wrong. You look at the context. What did the president ask for? He asked for help in an ongoing Justice Department investigation into election meddling in 2016. That is something that Democrats used to claim.
He asked for information about a potential political rival from a foreign leader.
No, when he asked for a favor, he asked specifically about CrowdStrike. He asked about the election meddling, which we've known, according to Politico, Democrats, the DNC consultant, worked with Ukrainian officials to, quote unquote, try to sabotage Trump in 2016.
If the phone call was so perfect as the president claims and there was no problem with it, why did White House officials then move that phone call into a super secret vault?
If you read Politico the other day, they reported, however, that system was set in place in spring of 2018. And you know why it was put in place? To prevent leaks, because this is an administration who has had to battle Democrats both inside and outside the government.
But not all phone calls were put into that special vault.
You had a president who has undermined just a few months into his presidency with people within the deep state leaking his conversations with Australia, with the leader of Mexico. It's unprecedented, the attacks, the unrelenting attacks that this president has had to face trying to undermine his administration at every turn. Absolutely, they took steps to safeguard information that is confidential. The president has to have confidential conversations. But again, going back to this phone call.
But not all phone calls are treated that way. But I do want to ask you, though, really quickly, though, about the Republican Party's decision to, to sort of keep any other candidate sort of running against Trump in the primary. Do you think that's good for the party as a whole going forward?
Well, we've always said you can knock yourself out, you can go ahead and run. This is a president who has unprecedented popularity within the Republican Party, and we've done nothing to stop any candidate from running. All we're saying is President Trump, he's got such great support from Republicans because he's actually delivering on the issues that Republicans care about. And so I'd remind your viewers that in 2011, no one was asking, is Barack Obama rigging the primary against him, when there in fact was a debate between 11 Democrats that Obama did not participate in during the primary in December 2011. And in fact, Barack Obama, there was no question that he wouldn't be the nominee as an incumbent president. But at the time, his support was only at 76% in his own party. So
I don't think anyone's questioning that President Trump will be the primary. But that's almost why it wouldn't make sense to silence any other. I mean, South Carolina has canceled their primary, and former Congressman Bob Inglis is filing a lawsuit.
This is very normal. This is a practice that's very normal. The RNC does not make the decision. State parties make the decision, and a lot of times they don't have as much financial resources, so they have to keep in mind, what do we want to spend our money on? And sometimes these caucuses and primaries can be very costly, cost $250,000. Is it worth it to the party to have a caucus when President Trump's going to win 98 to 2%? A lot of state parties make that decision that it's not worth it.
All right. Well, Liz Harrington, we thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you.